you. I'm going to go ahead and close this door. Yep, sorry. But I'll leave it like that in case anybody wants to pop in. So what we're going to talk about today is branding yourself better through social media. And so I just want to kind of get to know you guys a little bit. So how many of you work for yourself? Like maybe you're a consultant for someone. You're a consultant. Work for yourself? What about with an agency? Agency? Okay, what about for a brand? Great. And what are your job roles? Are you guys social media or are you marketing? Are you PR? Everything. Everything. Okay. B2B, B2C, both?
Everything.
Okay. And why did you come to this session? Are you doing this because you want to know how to boost yourself within your brand, or do you want to do it because you want to create a personal brand for yourself that makes you stand out beyond your current employer? Yes? Okay. So you're going to learn how to do kind of both in this presentation. A lot of this is kind of adapted from my personal experience with Vocus. As I said, I've been with them for almost 8 years now. And I just kind of found myself being this voice of social media for Vocus. And so thus I'm kind of known in my area as Social Media Stace, and that's kind of my personal brand. And hopefully you'll remember it. I have some really cool examples of personal branding here, and I'm going to try to help you guys be the best personal brand that you can be. So A, your employer loves you, and B, if you decide to change career paths or change employers, you're going to have a strong personal brand when you go to those places as well. So here's just a little agenda. So we're going to talk about what personal branding is, what it isn't, the benefits, like why exactly are we doing this? Why do we want to brand ourselves and put ourselves out there? How to determine exactly what kind of personal brand you are. Assets to grow and build your personal brand. Self-packaging, which is how you present yourself to people when you go to conferences and events or online. And measuring and protecting your personal brand so that way no one uses it or tries to harm you online. So what is personal branding? Personal branding is really you as the brand. So I told you my name is Stacey Miller. I'm from Vocus. But my personal brand is Social Media Stace. Though I work for Vocus, I wear Vocus green and I go and I speak on behalf of Vocus, I'm known as the social media specialist. That's my personal brand. What kind of personal brands are you guys thinking about? Have you thought about your personal brands yet? Does anybody want to kind of volunteer to tell me what they're kind of aspiring to be or what they want people to look up to them for?
Well, I'm here for work, but I actually have a job that I have my own business as well. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm getting kind of twofold here. I'm getting more for my own personal business than I am for work. But
what's your personal business?
I do haunted ghost tours here in Tulsa. I've been doing them 10 years. I don't advertise. I sell it by word of mouth every year. So
that's cool.
I want to take it to a bigger level. I want to be downtown presence constantly, and I want to find a way to get to more people.
Yeah. What's your name?
Terry.
Terry. So when I think of Terry, so what Terry would like is when somebody comes to Tulsa, maybe they come for vacation, they come for a conference, and they figure out they want to do that one thing in Tulsa while they're here. They want to go in a ghost tour. Someone says, oh, you should go see Terry. Terry's the ghost tour woman. She's going to show you what tours to go on or where to go, or she has the best insight. She has got the best narration. She knows where all the ghosts are. That's kind of Terry's personal brand. So that's a really good example of what you're kind of aspiring to be. So what a personal brand is kind of just a melding of all of these things. So it's your talent, what you're really good at, values, what do you value, what do you appreciate, your passion, what are you really passionate about? A personal brand can really be based on something that's your hobby, or it could be based on something that's your career or your job. I know some people who have jobs, but they're not really passionate about it. It's a paycheck. So, creating a personal brand based on a hobby is something that you might want to look at if it's not directly correlated to your career. It's also based on your strengths. So what are you really good at? You don't want to base your personal brand on something you're just so at, or you're still kind of working out the kinks. You want to be known as someone who's really good at whatever it is that you decide to be. Your ideals and your experience. So what have you been doing the longest? So you hold credibility with your personal brand. If I was 1 year into being a social media manager, I wouldn't be maybe considered credible as a social media expert, because I would have only had 1 year of experience, but I feel comfortable branding myself as a social media specialist because I've been in the field for almost 8 years now. So you want to think about how much experience you have and exactly what your personal brand aspires to be. So I really like this quote. It comes from Jay-Z. I borrowed it from an agency called Breakout, and I really love it because, you know, Jay-Z, obviously he does music, but he's also an entrepreneur, he's an investor. There's a lot to learn from him in terms of business, and I know that sounds corny, but he's a really cool example. And what this quote says is, today, companies are becoming a lot more like individuals, and individuals are becoming a lot more like companies. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So it's yourself as the business, yourself as the brand. You're marketing yourself as if you would market a business, because that makes you valuable in your current role and beyond. Another kind of way to think about personal branding is it's what people say about you when you leave the room. So when I leave this room, what are you guys going to think about me? Are you going to think about me as someone who talked about personal branding? Or are you going to think about me as someone who talked about social in a really credible and cohesive and easy to understand way, as social media stays? I hope that's how you guys will remember me, but we'll see. Okay, so what personal branding is it? So everybody knows Old Spice Guy, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Old Spice Guy is awesome, he's hilarious, but this is not personal branding. This is basically him being a spokesperson or a brand evangelist or a brand ambassador. He's paid to be in this role. His association with Old Spice is paid, and he does it, and he's good at it because he's paid to do it. This might not be what he's passionate about. He's probably not passionate about deodorant. So personal branding isn't always an association with the brand that you work for, although it can be. Part of my personal brand is with Vocus because I have been with the company for so long and I'm really passionate about social media. It's a part of what helped me grow to become what I am. So I'm okay with that being part of my personal brand. But it doesn't have to be a part of your current brand if you don't want it to be. So some benefits of personal branding. Why exactly are we doing this? Why does this matter? Why are we going to do this on top of all of our other crap that we have to do during the day after work, right? So one of the #1 reasons to create a really strong personal brand is to become the go-to expert in your industry. What kind of industries are we represented in the room today? What do you guys, like, what industries do you guys work in? So is it finance or health or
Health and wellness.
health and wellness? Exactly.
Human resources and jazz.
Human resources and jazz. I love it. See? So we all represent many different industries. We all work in different verticals. And there are different experts in each of those industries. And within those industries, there are different niches where there are also experts. And so competition can be tough. But when you personally brand yourself as someone who is really knowledgeable about what they do, has lots of experience, and is really credible, you become the go-to expert. And in turn, you get great word of mouth from people who know you from doing a good job at what you do. And that in turn increases business. So this is not a stock photo. This is actually my friend Marcus Sheridan. He's known as the Sales Lion on Twitter. And so Marcus, he owned a pool business out in Virginia, which is near where I'm from. And back, I think around 2008, was a time of recession for him. And he owned this business. It was what supported him and his family. And he found that he wasn't making sales, and he didn't know what to do. He couldn't just drop the business because it was family-owned. It was what he supported his wife and kids on. But people weren't buying pools. Pools are really expensive things. So what Marcus did was he went online and he answered in a blog all of the questions that his competitors weren't, all the national pool guys. So while he's got this small pool business that just served a certain area of Virginia, he was answering the questions that the big pool guys weren't and getting national recognition for being the go-to expert on pools. So the questions he answered were, what do I do if there are cracks in my pool? How much does this model of pool cost? Because you know how sometimes you go to a retailer for something like this and they don't tell you the price online, they got to come out and give you a quote and it's a big hassle. He answered all those questions that people were searching for that no one else would answer. And because of that, he became a #1 in search for pools in the area, and he eventually grew to compete with all the national guys. And #2, he increased sales by becoming the go-to expert because he was transparent, he provided thought leadership, original content, and he answered all those questions. That's like the biggest thing that you can do on the web to help increase your thought leadership, your authority, and your credibility. Is to answer the questions that people are seeking answers for. That's kind of what the internet is for. It's what it was based on, right? You guys remember Ask Jeeves before Google? He's like, Jeeves, what's the answer to this? People are looking for answers to questions. So one of the benefits of personal branding is becoming the go-to expert in your industry, which means more business. Likability is another benefit. And so, being likable seems like a silly goal, but being someone who's kind and honest and open and easy to talk to is something that people like. When you go to a conference and you look at people around the room, don't you look for someone who's like approachable and smiling and looks like they're having conversations with other people and they're easy to talk to? Having a personal brand that seems likable and honest and transparent and all of those things that I mentioned is also going to help your personal brand because it makes you approachable. Industry thought leadership. I love this one. This is Seth Godin. Have you guys heard of him before? Oh my God, he's amazing. If you haven't heard of him, please go on the internet, read his blog. He's brilliant. He's basically the #1 luminary in marketing. He writes really fantastic books and really thoughtful blogs that are really just about rethinking the way that we market and the way that we engage with other human beings. It's very, very thoughtful.
What was his last name again?
Seth Godin, Godin. And we were doing an interview with him at his studio. And so he's an industry thought leader because he provided a different way of thinking for marketers. And what that did for him, so Seth worked for companies, but because he had such a unique school of thought that was different to other people and that he shared that online, he was able to create his own business and work for himself because of his thought leadership and his originality in his schools of thought. And so being someone who thinks different, thinks outside of the box, understands how things in the industry work and is able to communicate those in a really easy way for other people to understand is a great way to establish thought leadership. And it'll not only help you in your current business, it might help you start your own. It'll help you be even more appealing to other businesses, bigger businesses that you might want to work for. A lot of thought leaders that I know, they kind of started off at agencies or consultancies, and then businesses like Google or Twitter found them and scooped them up because they said, you're really smart. You're really good at communicating these ideas. You're really likable. We like your brand, and it aligns with our brand. So we'd like to bring you on our team. And that's really interesting. I think that's really important. So determining your brand, we talked about this in the little Venn diagram earlier, but in order to figure out exactly what you want to be and how you want to market yourself, there's a couple things you're going to want to look at. So what are you good at? And this is like completely objective, like don't BS yourself, honestly. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So what are you really good at? What are you really terrible at? It goes without saying, don't try to brand yourself as something you're really terrible at. What interests you and motivates you, professionally or personally? I get a lot of FAQs about, the longevity of the brands that you build for yourself. When you think about an actual brand or a business, if they build a business and they have a name and they have a brand, and then they switch to another name or another mission, that takes away some of the brand equity. It takes away some of the mind share in the industry, and you kind of have to go through a rebranding process. And that takes time because you want people to know you for this one thing for a long time and be able to find you for that thing. When you switch to something else, it becomes hard for people to find you. A funny example of this, I had a different last name when I spoke at Social Media Tulsa last year, and then I got married, and so I had to rebrand myself as Stacey Miller instead of Stacey Acevedo. And so I had all this search equity for Stacey Acevedo and 0 for Stacey Miller because it's one of the most common, typical American names. So I'm going through a rebranding process myself, making sure that I'm being able to be found in search as Social Media Stace. Because Social Media Stace was Stacey Acevedo in 2013. So in 2014. Going back to what interests you and motivates you, professionally or personally, you want to make sure that whatever you choose, like I said, is absolutely your passion. And make sure it's not something that you're doing because it's a fad or it's like a trend right now. What's a trend right now? Like twerking, Miley Cyrus? You're not going to be, you shouldn't really be passionate about twerking. I don't think twerking will last past the next 2 or 3 months. There's going to be something else. This is a silly example, obviously, but make sure it's something that is going to keep you going. One example I think for me is like, I don't know, maybe you're a NASCAR enthusiast. So if you like NASCAR in here? One, okay.
Two.
We're two, okay, we're friends. So, you know, that's something that historically has been around for a while and probably will be around for many, many years to come. So if you want to brand yourself as maybe a NASCAR enthusiast or a NASCAR reporter or someone who provides commentary on NASCAR on the internet, something like that, that's fine because that's something that you know, that you've evaluated, and that will have some longevity to it. But enthusiast on twerking might not be the best thing to choose. So what is your passion? We talked about that. You have to love it. If you don't love it, you won't be successful at it. It's kind of like a job. You know, some people have jobs just to have a paycheck, but they don't love it. You know, having a passion means that you have a drive for something and you want to do it all the time. If you don't have a passion for it, you'll do the least amount required, and that's not going to get you where you want. Other things to consider. What honest feedback do your friends and colleagues provide about how you are perceived? And this is kind of a cool exercise because it's kind of how your friends would introduce you to other friends. So if your friends are out somewhere talking to someone and say, oh, you know, I have a friend named Terry, she's really good at X, Y, and Z, what would they say about you? What would they honestly say about you when you're not around? How do they perceive you? You can use that as a starting off point. And then experience. What are the factual bases of your career? How long have you been doing whatever it is that you've been doing? How long do you think you've been an expert? Or how long have you been learning about this? How long have you been passionate about it? Because it'll help you decide whether it's something that you really want to continue doing. Maybe it's that whatever you choose, you've been doing it for too long and you might be getting tired of it. Or maybe you're saying, I've been doing this for a little bit now. I think I would like to do this for a really long time. It's really about just finding what you love. And I think for a lot of people that's the hardest part because as marketers, as PR pros, we have a tendency to do so much and jump around with so many things. It's hard to concentrate on one thing sometimes. So just take that into thought. And then the differentiator. What unique quality makes you different or unusual? This one's also kind of tough because it's a fact of life. There's always going to be someone out there who is better than you. That is just how the world works. You know, they might not be in the same state, they may not be in the same country, but there's someone out there in the industry that's better than you. But what you have to do is find what quality makes you different. What is something that's going to appeal to an audience that you're marketing yourself to? So maybe you have a passion for, I don't know, who has a passion? Give me an example of something that you're really passionate about. Maybe it's a hobby.
Art.
Art, okay, so you're passionate about art. Let's say you're passionate about oil paintings. Was it oil painting? Yes, there he is. So say you're passionate about oil paintings. There's a lot of oil painters in the world, but what makes your oil paintings different? Is it that you're the only oil painter that paints 18 by 24 realistic paints in the Tulsa area? That's a differentiator. If you're one of 30 who do that, that's not one of your differentiators. Or maybe you're the only oil painter who uses some other type of paint or some other type of color or some other type of artistic technique that other oil painters don't use. And that's a unique differentiator. So you want to figure that out and use that to play your strengths. So this is kind of a persona more than a personal brand. Eric has heard of this person, right? Fake Grimlock before? So this is a persona, not really a personal brand, but I wanted to make a point about how personal branding can be fun. I think a lot of people personal brand based on their career path, which is perfect because that means that you know what you want to do, you love your industry, and this is the career that you've committed to. But if you're thinking of a personal brand for entertainment purposes or for internet use, this is a really funny example. His name is Fake Grimlock. Nobody knows who he is. And he is a world-famous robot dinosaur. And so why does this matter? So this person has a lot of experience in entrepreneurship and the startup world, and funding and investing. And so there's a lot of information out there on the web about how to do a startup, how to get investors, you know, entrepreneurial mistakes not to make. And so, you know, you go to Forbes and you read an article and it says, number 1, optimize your website. Number 2, find investors. And what his persona says is stop sending emails full of suck and then your business won't suck. So he's like an archaically blunt, give you the painful truth type of persona about entrepreneurship, just kind of with this funny mask on it. So that's what makes him different. He's giving startup advice in a non-traditional way that's funny. It makes people want to read it. It's not so serious. So it's just an example of an interesting persona I thought you might like. So assets. What do we need to kind of establish ourselves online as this expert in our industry or as this expert in our niche? So what is that? The answer is an ugly resume. Not to say, these aren't, it's not that bad, but it's 2014. Humans are visual beings, and we don't have attention spans. Who was sitting in Danica's talk during lunchtime? Did you hear what she said about the attention span of human beings being like 2 seconds? She's right. Do you want me to put that in perspective to you? The attention span of a goldfish is like 6 seconds. And as humans, we're 2 seconds. So that's ridiculous, right? So when you're going and you're showing yourself off to people, trying to make yourself an expert, trying to appeal to people and bring them to you, don't send them this. This is really annoying when I see this. You need one of these no matter what, a regular white copy resume. But we're marketers, we're PR pros, 2014, the age of the internet. We're going to be a little bit more visual. We're going to market ourselves better. So everybody has LinkedIn, right? Who doesn't have a LinkedIn? Be honest. Well, you can have one when you're 17, 18. No big deal. Okay. So I actually read a stat on the internet a couple weeks ago, and it said that like 40% of Americans don't even know that LinkedIn exists, and I don't even understand how that even happens in this day and age. But I mean, LinkedIn is the most basic recommendation for kind of starting your personal branding and establishing yourself as an expert, because you're putting your resume out there, you're sharing your expertise, things that you've written, and endorsements from other people that say, yes, this person is an expert at this, or yes, they are a specialist at this. Yes, they say they do what they say that they do. But let's take it one step further. This is about.me. Has anybody heard of it? Yes. I love about.me. It's one of my favorite sites. And so if you haven't heard of it, what it does is it basically, it's a web page that's about.me/your username, and it integrates all of your presences on the web in this one beautiful page. So if you don't have a web page, you don't know how to build a web page, you don't have time or money or the skill, this is a really easy way to kind of create one central presence on the web, so that way it's easy for people to find you and everything that's related to you. So you get a much bigger picture than no picture on a resume, and the headshot that's on LinkedIn. We'll talk about headshots later. So it's more of a personality page. It shows people who you really are. It's not this really strict description that you would give to an employer. This is showing people about who you really are and what you value and what you do. So over here, you rename your photo. You have like a 2-paragraph blurb on what you do. And so, on a resume, that might be like your objective or your summary, which is typically very formal. They're very boring, like works well with others, self-starter. No, this is for you. So this is corporate communications, proud single dad, runner. It's personality. It's exactly what he loves to do. It shows his personality and who he is and how he identifies with other people. And then down here, it has links to, it shows like where his location is. And then down here, it has links to all of his social media presences and the website that he's present on or he writes for. And so this is really important. It's like your home page. It's like your web page. It's your central hub for all the information that you want people to find about you. So if you haven't tried it, I recommend that you do. It's free, so you don't have to worry about that. This is another site. It's called visualize.me. So if you're interested in the more resume type route that's hosted on the web, this is like a much, much prettier way of doing it. So visualize.me, it's spelled with a Z, so VIZUALIZE.me, is basically an infographic style resume. So basically you pop in your years of experience and your education and like your languages and other keywords and things that, like how many years of experience you've had in each field, and it makes an infographic for you. And so for people who are in like user experience or design fields, this is a really cool way of showing off what you need to do in a way that other people in the field kind of understand. So you're showing that, hey, I'm a designer, I designed this resume, but you didn't really design it. Somebody else did it for you. But it shows that you understand, how other people in the industry think. It's just a much prettier way of showing off what you do. And it's okay to show off what you do. It's okay to brag about what you do, because who else is going to do it for you? Maybe your boss, maybe your mom, You got to do it sometimes for yourself too.
What was that website again?
Visualize.me. So it's VIZUALIZE.me. Right? Good. Yes. Cool. And this is the last one. Visual CD. Again, it's just a visual resume service. You plug in all your information in your picture. You can also put links to other places where you've been. You can upload documents. So like if you created presentations, you can do that on LinkedIn as well. But just add much more supporting information to show off exactly what you've done, your best work. I think Peter, what he did here, he uploaded a snippet from one of his books that he published, or books that he's been quoted in. It shows off your expertise. So it shows that you really are who you say you are, and adds much more credibility. The next asset that we need is an elevator pitch. Who knows what elevator pitch means?
You got 15 seconds to say who you are and what you do.
Hey, I say 10, but I think 15 is a great number, because have you guys given your elevator pitch at this conference yet already? Have you guys networked to people at all? You haven't networked yet? What did you guys come here for? Okay, so tonight we're all going to be networking, and I want all of you guys to work on your elevator pitch between now and then. This is serious homework. I will be there, so don't fake on me.
I think you got mine already.
I got yours already. It's fabulous. And so, one thing that's really important is an elevator pitch, because, again, attention spans are short. When you meet people, it might not be for that long. People meet a lot of people. I go to a lot of conferences and get business cards, and I come home with 100 business cards. I don't remember more than 3 of those people, and it's all based on their elevator pitch and what they tell me, who they are, what they do, and why that's important. So, how to make your own elevator pitch for when you go out and you're introducing yourself to people. What you do, what problems you solve, and what makes you qualified to do it. So, the cool thing about this is that it's simplified, so you can write it to be your social media profile bios on LinkedIn, where you have your bio and your header. You can make that your elevator pitch on your LinkedIn summary. You can use it there. On your about.me, you can use it there. Anywhere on the web where it says about me, you can fill this in for yourself to kind of make it short, sweet, and succinct, and give the most pertinent information to people looking to find out exactly who you are. How many times do you go on the internet and you see someone and they've got a title like Chief Happiness Officer, Wanderlust, Indie Music Lover, Fame? It's like, what do you do? I have no idea what you do. I hate that. Don't do that, okay? Because nobody knows who you are or what you do. Like for other people who...
Who's been the variable, sir?
I mean, yeah, like, I don't understand that. And I want to know who you are and what you do and why you're important. Why should I follow you? Why should we be connected? Why should we be in the same community? So let's try this formula. So here's mine. Stacey Miller. I'm the Senior Social Media Manager at Vegas. I give insights on social media ROI, and I've been doing it for 8 years now. Simple. So you know who I am, what I do, and why that's important, and why you're in this room listening to me. Because I'm Stacey. I've been doing this for 6 months. I do social media because I like Facebook. Would you listen to me? No. You absolutely would not. So who wants to, on the spot, kind of give me their simplified elevator pitch? Please don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what if you haven't been doing it for 8 years and you've been doing it for 6 months?
I think that's a really valid question. And I think that what you say there in place of that is kind of why what you're doing is your passion, or something that you are predicting about the industry, or a challenge within the industry. So I know someone who just recently switched actually from social media. They switched from healthcare to social media. She was going to school for biology, and then she decided she wanted to be a social media manager. And I said, wow, that's a big switch from your college degree to communications, And she goes to places and she's, yeah, I'm a social media manager. Oh, what did you major in? Biology. So she goes, my name is XYZ. I do social media for such and such. And I became really passionate about it when I realized how much I could help causes in the world and create an impact by raising money through social media. So she's displaying her passion for it and what she thought she could do with it, or what she aspired to do with it, instead of using her technical expertise or her length of experience as a qualifier. And that's totally fine, because obviously we're not all 10-year veterans of something and something. Sometimes we make career switches in life, yeah.
I'll try.
Yeah.
My name is Erica Jordan,
Yeah.
and my company is Natural Hair Tulsa. And basically what I do is I create events to bring people together who are natural. I've been doing this company for a year. However, I came to do this because my scalp hurt from using the chemicals for so many years on my hair. And after learning a lot about the natural products versus the chemically altered products, I found this to be the best thing for me, and I really want to educate people and make them aware and help them to make the right choice for their lives.
Yeah, I think that's great. Fabulous. So I know who she is, I know what she does, and I know exactly why she does it. Tad bit long. My suggestion for that would have been I do natural hair in Tulsa because I was tired of hearing problems with my friend's hair falling out of their scalp burning or something like that. And I'm sure you would go up to people and you would introduce it to people who also had natural hair, and they would immediately be interested in that. So really, really good job. Does anybody else want to try?
Can I retry? Because I felt like when I gave you earlier.
I thought it was great. Tell me. We're working on it. Let's do it.
Well, my
Please.
name is Terry White. I do haunted history tours here in Tulsa called Tulsa Spirit Tours. Been doing them 10 years. And I do it because I want to keep the urban legends in Tulsa alive. I do it to help spread the history of Tulsa.
I love that. To keep urban legends alive. That is a really good snippet to put in a social media profile. Because some of them, they don't allow for a lot of characters, like Twitter, in the header, like Pinterest if you're doing about me. So, I'm Terry. I do ghost tours to keep urban legends alive. I think that's really compelling. It's a good way to hook someone in person and online. Anybody else want to try?
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't solve problems. I sing music.
Okay. So you bring joy to the world. You bring joy to the world.
But when if I go, I'm Cynthia Simmons, I'm a jazz singer, and I bring joy to the world, I sound like the most conceited person
It
in
is
the
a little
world.
okay. How about I'm a jazz singer. How long have you been doing it?
4 years.
For 4 years. What made you get into it?
I love jazz.
You love jazz.
And if you
Okay.
go to my blog, it says that. Why does Sin sing jazz? Because she loves it.
Because you love jazz. I think that's succinct enough.
Sin sings jazz, that's all you need.
Yeah.
It's
Add-
jazz.
Add a
Except people look at
Bebop
me and go, Sin? You mean S-I-M?
Is it C?
It's C-Y-N. I'm Cynthia, and my name tag was getting a little heavy.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. No, I think it's, my name is Cynthia.
Yeah.
I'm a jazz singer, and I love doing it.
And that's
totally
usually
fine.
what I say, but
I think that's totally fine.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. And that's why I put the word simplified, because if you actually look online for how to write an elevator pitch or how to say an elevator pitch, they're like really complicated formulas. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear.
The people
all
describing
of
it
that.
forget the axiom KISS.
Keep
My
it simple,
favorite.
stupid. Keep it simple. So challenge. If you have time now, or write down these 3 things on your notepads. I put notepads out for you guys if you need them. And do your best to write it into like a 2 or 3 sentence snippet, so that way you can upload it to your social media networks later. So you already have one thing done by the time you get out here, right? Cool. All right. Assets. Okay. So everybody knows what this is. This is Twitter, right? Who has a Twitter account? Who doesn't have a Twitter account? All right.
2.
Perfect. 2? I like these numbers.
I have
These are great
Facebook.
numbers. And so my point here isn't that you need a Twitter account to brand yourself on social media, but my objective in showing Mari's account, you know Mari, right, is that you want to have as complete a profile as possible. So Mari did a really good job because she's got a beautiful headshot here. We're going to talk about headshots a little bit later, but you guys know they're doing headshots later. If you can swing the, however much it is, it's like $30. Like, take a good headshot if you don't have one. It's so essential to show people who you really are. Her name, her real name, people who put fake names in their titles, it's not really good personal branding because, again, we don't know who you are. I'm really sorry that this is not big enough for you to see. She's got a really good profile, so it says exactly who she is and what she does and any other information about her. So, top social media influencer, premier Facebook marketing expert. So it says, I'm great at social media, but I'm amazing at Facebook. So it's the industry that she's in and then the niche that she's the expert at. So it's further defining exactly why she's important. globetrotting speaker and author. Those are qualifications and credibility. You should listen to me as a Facebook marketing expert because I speak all over the globe and I've written books. Then she says Mari like Ferrari, so you know how to pronounce her name because people, you know.
We can mangle them, give us a chance.
You can make, exactly. And then Scottish Canadian, so that's just an interesting tidbit about her. So you know her business-wise, you know a little bit about her. It's like a conversation starter if you were to start a conversation with her on social media. Maybe you're also Scottish Canadian or part Scottish or part Canadian. So a really complete profile. And then the area where you live in. Some people hesitate on doing this, but I think it's important because you might get invited out to networking events or find that you have people that are close to you that you could be friends with and go talk to about things. So location is really interesting. And then the thing for me that does it is this background that she put up. And so what the background is just further branding. It says, Mari Smith, social media leader. This is my face. These are my publications. And then over here, again, leading social media strategist. And then quotes from Forbes calling her a top influencer and this and that. And here are the books that she wrote. And so you can pay and have one of these designed, but there are free designers all over the web that'll do it for you. There's actually some automated websites that'll make Twitter backgrounds for you if you want to further give people more information about yourself on Twitter. All you have to do is Google like free custom Twitter background, and you'll find a bunch of services.
It's the guys that aren't getting work from MySpace anymore.
Yeah, that too. I mean, MySpace, please don't go there. Nobody's going back to MySpace. I'm sorry, Justin Timberlake. I mean, it's true. Did anybody go back to MySpace? Some musicians did. I know musicians.
It's very much a musician
It's very
site,
big
but I
for
still
music.
have not gone back to my
Case in point. So,
I have one.
Same thing's MySpace.
yeah. I can't delete mine. I've had it since like 1998, and I can't figure out how to get into it to delete it. It's really scary. So, don't go there. So, a really complete,
I
filled
go
out
back
information.
and-
What's that?
I go back and resurrect the information to
Oh my
current
God.
once 6 months. So.
The horror.
It's not an important piece, but because it is stuck there,
Yeah. You
it's
might as
a
well
good
keep it
idea
updated, right?
if you've already got one
Yeah.
and you're endeavoring to do your social media and your presence and building on the web. If they Google you, they're going to find it.
Yes.
Whether you want it there or not.
That's
if
a really
it was
good
put
point.
there originally.
I really love that point.
So you want to go back and take the archive part of it and bring it updated a little bit. If you do nothing more than refresh and give it a little bit of a facelift.
Yeah. Who here has created a social media account but hasn't updated it in a while? Be honest. Yeah. What network?
I have a whole bunch of random ones.
All of them?
Like, there's one that was called Hilo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a competitor to Twitter. I
Yeah.
was like the 65th person that joined or something.
Yeah.
And then like
Early adopter.
2 days later, I didn't even like use it at all. Yeah, I don't even know if it exists anymore. But
Yeah, I mean, all of these things that we're creating on the web, we're going to talk about some more assets here, but I just want to talk about that point since you made it early. When you're creating social media assets on the web, such as profiles and pieces of content, you really want to make sure that you actually update them and you don't create them just because everybody else has one. Because if you create a presence or a profile on a platform and then leave it stagnant, like you said, it's going to come up in search when people search for your name, and then it's going to be this big empty profile, or it might be something that hasn't been updated since 2011. Then that kind of looks gross for you because it looks like you didn't really care about your presence or your brand, and then people are just like, well, she didn't care to update this page. I don't care to look at the next search result about her or him. So thank you for making that point. I love that. So what this is the conversation prism. It's an infographic created by Brian Solis and we actually brought some of Brian Solis's books for you guys if you're interested. He's a really, really fabulous author and luminary. And what this is basically a map of all the social networks currently that you can join. And so they update it, I think, like every single year. And so this can be kind of overwhelming. It's kind of similar to what Danica showed. It was like all the networks and then don't panic. So don't panic when you see this. The purpose of this is to show that there are a lot more social networks than Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest. But B, all these networks are in different niches and they have different audiences. So for some people,
About that infographic.
yeah. I'm sorry I can't blow this up for you, but I will make sure Cheryl has my presentation available so you can have it. You can just search the conversation prism. So my point being with this is that, Pinterest is really cool, but it might not be where you need to personally brand yourself. Like Pinterest is great for women who are planning weddings. First and foremost. It's really good for retailers because you can do one-click buy. You see an outfit on Pinterest or you see makeup on Pinterest and you can buy it. But a lot of the things that are pinned on Pinterest, there's no direct link to a place where you can actually get those things, which can be really frustrating for users. Or maybe there's not a way that you can utilize your personal brand on there. So there are all these networks here that I would advise that you choose one that's not one of the typical three, which would be Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. First of all, please try Google+, if you haven't already. Google+ is, I think, kind of the future of social media, just because obviously they're owned by Google. There's social signals in there that help you rank better with +1s and connections, Google+ authorship. And I think the communities on there are much more dedicated when it comes to industry conversations. If you try to have an industry conversation with people on Facebook who you aren't really a part of a community with, it kind of flops. I think Facebook is becoming a place that's just way too convoluted and messy and full of brand ads and spam. So you might want to evaluate Google+ if you haven't evaluated a presence there already. But if you think that your brand, maybe, here's an example, Michelle Phan, she is a YouTube makeup artist. And so her primary network is YouTube because she does video tutorials on how to do makeup, and that's where her primary audience is, and that's where she engages on the most. Reddit might be a primary network for some people who are interested in being moderators or answering questions or having really, really in-depth discussions about really, really deep things. There's a network for everything, and so on the outer ring you can evaluate, what kind of niche your network is in or your audience is in, or where people who are similar to you might be in, and then join one of those and try one of those and see if it might be worth your while. So it's a really, really great resource. Okay, so rules for personal branding on social. We talked about this a bit. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. I think they're kind of obvious, but I'm going to state them anyway because mistakes happen. So be present. We talked about that. So don't create a presence and then just leave it there to be stagnant, because then it just looks like you didn't care, or maybe there's information that somebody else uploaded and you didn't edit, you didn't care to go back and see it, like if someone left a comment on your wall or spammed on your wall, kind of like when you have a business page and someone spams all over your wall and you don't moderate it, that looks bad when other people come to your page. So be present and be consistent. So some people will create presences on networks, but then they won't utilize them often enough. So, killer content session with Danica talked about this a little bit, but just making sure that you don't post a piece of content one day and then don't post another piece of content for a month later. Quality content, consistently, daily, weekly, whatever you can manage, is really good for search. And it's really good because it makes sure that when you're posting, your audience is going to see what you're posting. Answer questions. Again, Danica said this. I feel weird. I don't want to reiterate what she said, but she had a really great presentation. The social media is not a bullhorn. You're not shouting into the Grand Canyon. You want to answer questions and be helpful to people and demonstrate that you're an expert or you're a specialist or you have knowledge, really good knowledge about a particular topic or a particular question. Engage. It's the exact same thing. Talk to people. Don't just broadcast messages. Social media is about conversation. That's what it was started for. And now it seems to be a broadcasting service. So always remember the root of social media when you're engaging in activity. Follow back. Oh my God, I can't tell you how much this annoys me when someone follows you when you don't follow someone back. Especially if there's someone that might be of interest to you. I think that sometimes we forget about the maintenance and the community of social media and how when someone follows you, they're interested in you. Maybe you should follow them back, or maybe you should be doing searches every day for other people that are in your industry, other like-minded people that you can have conversations with and share insight and ask questions and be friendly, be a friend. I think that's really, really important. Include keywords. This one's really fun. I actually have an entire presentation on that, but I won't give it to you today. But including keywords in your social media is super important because it helps people find you in search. So for me as a social media manager, when I'm engaging in conversations about social media, I try to use all the important social media marketing keywords, such as social media marketing, social media specialist, social media management, social media analytics. Because I know these are the conversations that people are having right now about social media. Social media ROI is like a big one. So I like to talk about that when I can, because I know people are always looking for the answer to what is the ROI of social media. So have conversations around the keywords that people are searching for. And then complete profile. I showed you that on Marty's, you know, your right name, your bio, where you live, what you actually do. You're not the chief happiness officer. You're not Wanderlust. You're not an indie music lover. You are exactly who you are. Don't put the fluff in there. It's okay to put the personality things in there. Like, you know, mine is social media manager at Focus, you know, brand ninja, speaker, author, but then I say I love NASCAR and rock music. So people get a little bit of my personality too, so that way they can identify with me on a more personal level. All right, so content assets. So we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what pieces of content you need to kind of help establish your personal brand on the web. So who has a blog? Yay, good job, very happy, good. Having a blog is really important because it's going to help you publish your original, your quality, your consistent content. You can blog on anything. I think that you know, being involved in marketing and PR, we're all probably already involved in some sort of content creation, whether it's press releases or blogging or you know, social media posts. We probably create a lot of content a day, emails. It can be hard to create your own content when you go home at night and you're thinking about your personal brand or writing something new that'll make people want to read about you and come talk to you. But I really highly recommend a blog because, again, it shows expertise, it shows thought leadership, it shows credibility. Maybe you have something new. Maybe you're answering questions like Marcus Sheridan that no one else in that industry is answering, so more people can find you. But it's a really important asset. This was Marcus's blog, the one that I talked about, that he used to answer all his questions that his competitors weren't answering. This is kind of an older screenshot, but when he first started the blog, obviously he was at 0. At the end of answering all of his questions that his competitors weren't, in order to garner new business, he was getting like 250,000 hits. I don't know if it was a day or a month or something crazy. Like, it's like exponential number that you wouldn't think a small business owner in Virginia would get, but he did because he did what his competitors didn't, and he became the experts at pools instead of the national pool guys. So it's a really good lesson in how creating content can really bolster your personal brand. This is an example. I actually work with him, Jeff Zelaya. He has branded himself as a marketing consultant and public speaker, and he blogs daily on trends that are happening in marketing and, you know, what he thinks is happening in PR or PR tips. Like, here's what happened today. You can leverage this into a pitch if you want to. And that's how he brands himself, through his blog as a marketing consultant and public speaker. And look, very properly optimized, all his social media icons showing exactly where else he is on the web, so people can follow up with him and talk to him there and see what else he's talking about. And then this is just kind of something to think about. This is also a whole other presentation itself, but colors are really, really interesting when it comes to branding, especially online. So if you're thinking about creating a serious personal brand presence across the web, across social, across your content, think about a color palette that really explains you and represents you. And that may seem kind of hard. I won't ask you to do it now, but choosing a color palette and then using that in all the same places on the web, it helps people recognize you. So when they see your blog, they're like, okay, you know, they don't think these are the colors, but if they see you somewhere else on the web, it'll trigger something in their mind and say, wait, I've seen that person before. Where's that? Those colors are the same. And then they'll make the connection between the two presences that you had. So it's connecting all the dots across the web. So say you don't have a blog, you don't have time for a blog, you don't want to write, you know, your own stuff, you don't want to code, you don't want to do any of that. That's fine. Totally cool. I find it really hard sometimes to blog as well, especially because I blog so much for Vocus and you know, for some other clients that I have. So guest blogging is a really, really good idea if you're trying to establish thought leadership and credibility and expertise in your industry. And in order to guest blog, all you have to do is find an industry site that your audience is reading on or that your peers read on that you think that you could contribute to, and go to the Contact Us section. More than likely, there's a section that says, want to write for us? Submit here. Or there's an info email that you can email and say, hey, would you be interested in a contributed post? I'd love to write something for you. And that's as easy as it is. You can do that with This is Marketing Profs. This is a marketing-centric website, but like Forbes has it. You know, Huffington Post. You can write for Huffington Post. Anybody really can. So it's all just about finding which websites you want to write for. Some other ideas, maybe long form writing isn't your thing, because I know for some people it isn't, are just going to Q&A type websites and answering questions there. So you're not taking the commitment to write a blog post, but you're creating a profile that is you, you're the expert on this, and you're answering questions that people are asking about this. So this is Quora, Q-U-O-R-A, it's a Q&A site. I have a profile here, and these are questions on woodworking. I'm not an expert on woodworking, I just wanted to show a different industry example. But if I were an expert on woodworking and I had a profile on a Q&A site, I would answer one of these questions. What is a good brand of table saw for an entry-level woodworker? I'd say, well, you know, I've been doing woodwork for a couple years, and I've been using this table saw because it provides this kind of reliability. Hopefully this helps you. So you've become that, you know, a trusted name or authority in woodworking. Or maybe there's a question here, what is the best factory-built woodworking bench? What are websites that provide woodworking plans? If you're a woodworking enthusiast, you can answer all those questions, and people will look to you to answers for more questions. You'll be the go-to expert. Reddit, we talked about Reddit. Reddit's also a really good place to answer questions and get involved in conversation. One word of caution though, it can be brutal sometimes. Danica talked about the black rabbit hole where you go in and you never come out, because there's so much to discover and read and talk about there, but people can also be really, really harsh on this website too, if you act like you're an expert but you don't know what you're talking about.
They don't have any problem putting you back in your place.
They have no problem putting you back in your place, and they'll troll you and thrash you online and things like that. So I would just err on the side of caution if you're not familiar with Reddit or how it works, to tread lightly on this network if you decide to delve into it. Facebook groups. Does anybody still join Facebook groups? I'm not sure. I'm involved in a couple and I use them here and there, but I think they're still good resources, especially for local groups. I think location is really interesting nowadays because people are really looking for like-minded people like themselves and networks and places that are actually easily accessible. I know a lot of people like Cheryl and Eric because of the internet, but I don't get to see them but maybe once a year at events like this. This is where the rise of networks like Meetup and Eventbrite come into play, because you can go to those sites and search for things that are happening locally and actually have face-to-face time with the people that you're really interested in. So Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups are also really good. I think LinkedIn groups are a lot more active than Facebook groups, and LinkedIn, like Google+, I think is kind of going to be one of those networks that stays and provides more value. Facebook and Twitter are kind of waning. So I think, you know, if you're looking for places to really get involved in certain communities, to stick with LinkedIn and Google+. Did you have a question?
No, it was just something that was mentioned about when you're joining the communities on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's another place currently to tread softly at first, because LinkedIn put in too broad of a power of authority to moderators. And if they kill you on one community, you can literally be killed on all the communities right now. And I don't think that was an intentional action.
Yeah.
But it's there, so it's something to consider as you tread into there until we find out that they've adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. This example was for technology, so if you were a technology enthusiast or you considered yourself a tech specialist, or maybe you worked in tech, you know, searching for tech groups would be really interesting. And these groups are, you know, they're pretty lucrative. I mean, over 35,000 members in some of these groups, so there are communities there for you to get involved in. But when evaluating some, it might be of interest to join smaller communities rather than larger ones, so you have a larger share of voice. Because standing out amongst 35,000 people on a social networking group is going to be kind of hard, because there'll be people there who've been there longer than you, and they're the ones that always post, and they're up at midnight posting, they have no life, whatever. You're not going to get a share of voice there. So maybe try a group that has a smaller number of people in it, more dedicated people, so you can have more meaningful conversations. Because that's what social is really about. It's about meaningful conversation. And then Jelly. Who's heard of Jelly? What? One person? Okay. So let me explain Jelly really quickly to you. I just realized what time it was. We got about 5 minutes. So Jelly is an app for your iPhone. Please download it, it's really cool. It's like Quora, but with pictures. So what happens is you download it, and it connects to your Twitter friends, your Facebook friends, and friends of those friends. So it's kind of like a finite circle. That's all it connects to. And then people ask questions in text and pictures. Well, the other day, I was eating salsa, and I couldn't figure out like what the name of the salsa was. It was like escaping my brain. So I took a picture of it, and I said, "What kind of salsa is this?" And lo and behold, 5 minutes later, Whole Foods replied to me and said, "Pico de gallo." And I'm like, "Oh!" And like, this is one of those things that I forgot, and they were able to answer. And that's kind of a cool example of brand marketing. But it's also really good for personal branding because you, again, become the expert answering those questions, becoming the thought leader, giving credibility in your field. You're the one who knows all the answers. So try Jelly if you haven't yet. It's really cute. You can like draw on the pictures, kind of like Snapchat, but it's less sexy and threatening than Snapchat.
Available on Android.
What?
It's available on Android.
Oh, right. There we
I
go.
download right now.
Look and see.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm an Apple girl. I had an Android once and like it almost killed me. So, okay. And then this is also a really cool service for kind of establishing yourself as an expert or specialist in your field and branding yourself as that person. It's called Haro, and it's a service from Vocus. It's free, so that's why I'm telling you about this. I'm not telling you to go buy anything from Vocus. But what Help a Reporter does is it connects you with reporters who are looking for sources for story ideas. So we have reporters like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Fox News. If you're quoted in Fox News, doesn't that make you look like you really know what you're talking about? You have some serious credibility if you're quoted in a news outlet. So there'll be reporters who are looking for a kind of product. Or a kind of service. And maybe you might be able to answer one of their questions, and then you get quoted in your story, and that adds again to your credibility, to your expertise, to your thought leadership. It's like the 3 key words of this entire session, right? How many times have I said them? So the commonality between all these things I've kind of talked about in terms of personal branding on social is content. And so, I'm a marketer. And so for marketers, I really like this quote. The competition is no longer a rival company making the same product or offering similar services. The competition is the New York Times, the Huffington Post, the Wall Street Journal. Everybody is creating content. And your competition as marketers, as PR pros, as someone who's trying to stick out in the world of your personal brand is everybody else's content. So producing your own content, your original content, your thought leadership content, things that differentiate you from the masses is what's going to help you brand yourself better on social media. So I'm going to fly through this last section really quickly. It's mostly just about packaging yourself, and so I'll make a point about Eric in this room later because this is really awesome. But personal branding is not this, you have to be beautiful and proper and la-di-da when you go places. It's really more about being yourself and being memorable for being yourself. So,
Sorry, I read the shirt.
yeah, it's true. So, do you wear your cowboy hat everywhere?
No.
Mostly? See?
This is my first time.
Damn it. So,
I know someone who does, though.
We're having to track reports HR and
Shall I go get John Taylor?
so you would have been a great example because, if I saw you somewhere
reinventing
else,
myself.
yeah, I think you should reinvent. I think you should wear the hat. Because if I saw you tomorrow and you were wearing that hat, I would be like, oh wait, that's the guy from social media. But okay, it's packaging. It's who you are. It's really just your personality. This is Scott Stratton. He's at Unmarketing on Twitter, and his personal brand isn't particularly the same anywhere he goes, other than he's a goofy guy that wears t-shirts and he has a goatee. But everybody kind of knows how he is, just who he is because of his appearance. It's very simple. Beth Canner, she is amazing in the nonprofit world. If you haven't heard about her, she's an author. She wears a red hat wherever she goes, so you know that's Beth Canner. I see her about once a year at South by Southwest, and I don't look for her. I just look for a red hat, and I'm like, oh, there's Beth. Beth's going that way, and that's how I know to find her. It's personal branding. It's packaging, so people kind of recognize you wherever you go. So Eric, sitting over here, clearly made the best example of this today. What Eric is wearing right now is exactly what he wears in his Twitter profile pic, which I see every day. So do you guys ever go somewhere and maybe you find someone on social media and you go to meet up with them and then you see them in person, it's like, that's not what you look like in your profile picture. So Eric has alleviated that problem by wearing exactly what he wears in the profile picture, so you know that that's him. So you're not like, Eric, oh, it's not Eric. You know, it's very embarrassing. So Cheryl, I know everybody knows what Cheryl looks like, but she's wearing Google Glass today. That's what she wears in her Twitter profile pic. It's just more easily to identify people. So some more visual identifiers. You don't have to dye your hair purple, but some people have a funky style about them. They have something that's unique about them. So having that style, maybe this gentleman, do you wear your hat everywhere you go?
No, but I wear his hair everywhere I do.
See, it's very easy to identify him by his hair or his hat. Some people wear suspenders. Some people wear funky ties. Some people always wear black or always wear a suit wherever they go. It's just like a character trait. So it's easier to recognize them. So when you see them, there's consistency over and over and over again in the way that they package themselves ingrained in your mind. And you remember them every time you see them, even though you might not recognize them or know or remember their name.
What is yours?
So mine is usually the fact that I wear all black. But I had to wake up at 3 o'clock this morning and catch a flight to come here, so it was dark. I just didn't know what to wear. So that was my fault. And I also kind of I usually wear something Focus and green, because my personal brand is kind of really strongly identified with Focus at this point, but personally I usually just wear all black, and I wear really tall heels. It's like my signature. People are like, why do you wear heels like that? Because it's me. So, this is my friend Calvin Lee. Hey, who's that? I didn't even realize you were in this. That's really funny. My friend Calvin Lee, he's very simple. He wears branded t-shirts everywhere he goes, and he's got spiky hair, and that's how we know him. He also has his own branded t-shirts whenever he goes to conferences, and he likes to hand them out to people. He shares his personal brand with other people, which is kind of fun. You don't have to do that. But I think that you kind of create your own personal brand through your own style every day. Sometimes it's not even really conscious, because we all have our own unique styles, and we tend to replicate those. Do you guys recognize who that is? Mari Smith. Why did you recognize her? The blue. The blue. Oh my God, you guys learned something. I was so stoked. Great. So you recognize her because that color blue is what she's wearing in her profile photo. Well, maybe not purple. The blue in her profile. She branded herself with that color blue because she's a Facebook extrovert, and Facebook is blue. So she'll wear that blue in certain places to kind of trigger that little switch in your mind that says, oh, I know, where did I see this woman before? Where did I see her before? And that's the first time you guys ever saw her and you recognized her. So that's really great. Really good headshot. Please get one. They're taking them here, but this was literally taken like on a white background with a backlight, like in my house. So don't make excuses for not being able to have a really good headshot, because you want people to see who you are. You want to smile, let people know that you're approachable. You know, you don't want to be mean in your headshot, because then people won't want to talk to you because they'll think you're mean. You know, profile pics. That's not a profile pic. Please don't use this. This makes me very angry.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
When Twitter, you know, you have the Twitter egg. You're not branding yourself well, and you're showing people that you might be a robot, or you know, commonly robots are profile pictures. So blurry photos. Don't know why people have blurry photos. We all have iPhones and Androids with Focus on them. No blurry photos. No more kitty profile pics.
Unless you're promoting
Is that the
your
second cat in a presentation today, or was there another one?
I think that's three.
Three? No, three too. You know, I know you love your pets. I love my pet too, but God forbid, if I put my dog as my profile pic, you guys come and you find me and you punch me in the face, because that's not good personal. That's not who I am. I'm Stacey. I'm not my dog. I'm not my cat. I'm not my kid. I want people to know who I am. And then none of this profanity. XXX, you know what that is. You're personally branding yourself. You're hurting your reputation by acting that way. You know, cuss words on social media, not quite professional, and the XXX, I don't really have to say anything about that. So, I'll just go through this. Organize, build, measure, monitor, listen, and document. I'll put these slides up online, but just make sure you're engaging in the conversations that you need to be engaging in. Search for industry keywords, and you can track your conversations by using, you know, there are lots of free social monitoring tools out there. And then you can also do some really simple tagged URLs to kind of run your own campaigns and see what conversations are working. So maybe you write a blog and you want to see who's actually reading it. You know, you tag the URL and you look at it in Google Analytics, so you know, I wrote this blog and I posted it to Twitter, and this many people read it from Twitter, and this many people read it from Facebook. So that way you know, this is where your audience is, this is where your peers are, and this is where people are going to talk to you about. Sometimes when I'm alone, I Google myself. That's totally okay, because you know what's happening with your brand, and if you're creating content that's good enough for you to show up in search, and among other likely search terms, and then reassess. Just make sure that what you're doing, it fits your mission with exactly what you want to do in life, what your passion is. Don't forget that. And then just this closing quote: life is not a dress rehearsal. You have to go for it. It takes hard work and dedication. You might not always get what you want, but it doesn't matter. Handle yourself with professionalism. And remember, in this business, it might be who you know that gets you there, but it's what you know that keeps you there. So mind your personal brand, and the rest will come. And that's all from me. Thank you, guys.